Hi everyone, welcome at WaveAct. Today, a really quick session around smart contracts versus legal contracts. And as you can see, as always, Anesta is super excited for this episode. So let's dive in. So, as always, if you have any questions, please write in the comments below so that I can actually engage with you and answer your questions and so that it's not a monologue. But I will just start with a quick explanation of both aspects. What are legal contracts on a super high level? I'm not a lawyer, I'm an engineer. And what are smart contracts? So I think we all have seen some kind of legal contract in the past, be it signing a contract when you go into employment or when you buy some kind of subscription or whatever. All these things are contracts. And if you think about these contracts, you usually see or recognize that they're somewhat vaguely formulated, right? There's, of course, a lot of things are explicit because they have to, but in general, there's always room for interpretation. And that's why we need lawyers, that's why we, in general, need the whole legal system as we have it today. So that there's someone that can actually decide if a contract has been violated or not. Those are legal contracts. And they're usually not, when I think back from commercial school, that's basically where I did my, it's the English word, matura. It's some exactly that what you do before college basically, and there I did my main, let's say, exam in law, and what that professor or teacher basically said, and I found that really interesting, is contracts and the law itself is usually somewhat vaguely formulated to cover as many aspects as possible. So that's intentional. So if you think about that, then and then compare it with smart contracts, then it will be much clearer than also that when smart contracts actually make sense and when legal contracts make more sense. So let's shift over to smart contracts for a second. What are those? They are, in basic terms, just software code saved on the blockchain. So whatever your developer writes in there, it will happen, when certain conditions are met. Like with every program code, if something happens, then this happens. If someone sends a transaction, sends person B money, for example, then this happens. That's a smart contract. And when we think about the law, like what we have discussed before now, we might quickly recognize that our smart contract fulfills a completely different purpose. Right? A smart contract has to be explicit because it wants to execute a certain action automatically or when certain conditions are met and no one can, manipulate that or these kind of things. That's the use case, right? But when you think about legal contracts, it's more about just a general structure of collaborating together, usually, right? And that's, of course, something a smart contract can't really cover because smart contracts live on the blockchain and they usually only have the information that is on the blockchain. And if something is not on the blockchain, then it needs to use other, let's say, protocols like Chainlink and so on to actually get that information on the blockchain. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense at all if you just can save it there in some kind of way. Then you can do it some without a blockchain as well. But that's basically the general thought, right? While legal contracts are really vague, to some extent, of course, they cover a huge spectrum of things that can happen, should not or must not happen, and so on and so forth, right? And all the consequences if something happens. But when you look at smart contracts, it's just if that action happens, then this happens. Then basically I release the funds or I do that. And the difference to what we have today, and it's not about contracts in that case, for example, when banks hold money of you, like an escrow, basically they wait until person A, the supplier, sends the goods, and person B has to send the money to the bank, and both trust the intermediary, the bank, which is assumed, that's a trust assumption, has no benefit on scamming either party, right? So that's the idea, and the smart contract is able to remove that middleman. So it's less about legal contracts versus smart contracts. It's more about like how can they complement each other, because a smart contract cannot replace a legal contract, and a legal contract cannot replace a smart contract, because even though you might have a legal structure around it, someone still might not pay, which means you need to sue them, you need to go to the court, and that's a whole other story, right? Which can go for months, years, and so on and so forth. It is a huge pain, a lot of money that is being involved usually. So both of these, let's say, approaches actually complement instead of compete with each other. And I think that's the main thing I want to leave with you here today. And yeah, as said, it's really a short episode today. So if there are no questions around that, please hit subscribe. It would really help our channel, or in that case, we're on LinkedIn right now, for example, too. Please hit the like button or hit the bell on my profile to not miss any of these sessions. Everything is super helpful. You know, the more followers we have, the more resources we can put towards this kind of content, not just the lives, social media content, all that kind of stuff. So, thank you very much for watching. Oh, hi Alexandros, got a question. What you say is the same. Both are agreements and both are executed depending on terms being fulfilled or not. No, that's not true. Sorry, Alexandros. Legal contracts are not executed depending on terms being fulfilled or not. A legal contract, by its definition, is not executable because it's so vague. Which means if you want to execute a contract, you need law enforcement for that. You need to go to the court, you need the police, you need all these people, centralized parties, to do that for you. And that's a huge difference. While a smart contract can do certain things, indeed, depending if certain conditions are met, but only to that extent of things that are known on chain. So that's the main difference here. So again, they complement each other, but don't really compete. I hope that answers the question. And yeah, as said, really thank you everyone for watching. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, if there are any other questions, please leave them below. Happy to answer them. And yeah, talk soon.